36 years I've been on the board. It has really grown. I mean, we were a small agency where we would hold board meetings in a small room. It was different. It was on the edge of things, on the cutting edge, as the phrase would go.
My first impressions were somewhat interesting, to say the least. This was a very freewheeling board. People that were really committed to the work, but oftentimes it felt like they were working off the back of an envelope. But that was very deceptive, because as I got to know the organization and to work with not only other board members but also staff, it became clear that this was a very nimble organization.
When I first joined Central Toronto Youth Services, it was an interesting place indeed. So in many ways, the contract worker model was a tremendously new idea, the money following the young adult. They basically said, how do we work across these streams so we don't have these crazy situations where the kid comes in one day with a worker from the Children's Aid, the next day they're coming in with a worker from Corrections, and the day after that there's some social worker calling from the Clark Institute about the kid. Everybody's disjointed, one kid, one collection of needs. So they developed this radical idea, which is the services should follow the child as opposed to the child fitting into the slots dictated by the Division in Public Services for Children.
I became involved at CTYS as a board member in the early 80s. I was middle senior manager at the Children's Aid Society of Toronto. There was a great partnership going on between the two agencies at the time. When I look back to what was happening in the community at that point, a fair amount of change, some transformation going on, some expansion in children's services, but a lot of kids fall in between what I would call the cracks. And when I think of CTYS, I think of an organization that's incredibly, creative and capable of responding to non-traditional needs of youth. And from a child welfare perspective, that was so invaluable to have a partner like CTYS that could step up and respond in the way that they did.
When I first came to the agency, it was housed at 27 Carlton Street on the 3rd floor. It was a new and innovative program. What drew me was the compassion of the staff that I met, the willingness and ability to think outside the box. And the director at the time was Grant Lowry, who was a very innovative thinker.
Grant Lowry was a visionary. He was one of the best policy minds I've ever come across.
No question in my mind that Grant would be real proud, because Grant was always looking at that new and different way of engaging with folks in community, responding to the needs of the youth, doing so in a way that respects the autonomy of those young people, but also the diversity of their needs, and that's what I would say that Grant would be most proud of.